Hey, have you ever suffered back pain or back stiffness the day after you played golf? Probably so. Well, golf can be very risky on the back, and with today's modern instruction methods and insane speeds that the guys on TV are reaching, the golf swing can be darn right hazardous to your health. Now, there's no question these guys on TV make it look awfully effortless, but behind the scenes, they're dealing with all kinds of back injuries, from herniated discs to spinal fractures to nerve damage and lots of surgery. And I know most of you watching right now are not 25 anymore, and the risk with age only increases as we lose stability and mobility in our spines. But there is good news. In this video, I'm going to show you some moves that you can put into your golf swing that's going to help it to be more sustainable as you age, that's going to help protect your back and your distance. Now let's look at the combination of movements that put your spine and discs at much higher risk. Here's a picture of Will Zalatoris just after impact. If you're older, you're almost already grabbing your back because it feels painful. Just a normal position that he goes in to through impact, ball after ball, day after day. Now, a high amount of these three movements put your back more at risk, and that is a lot of side bend this way, a lot of rotation of the spine, and a lot of spine extension like this. This is what you see all three of at a high amount in the swing of Will Zalatoris and some others. Now here's a couple more swings of young golfers we may or may not see a lot of in the future. First, here's Michael DeSasso. He just won the NCAA championship. He has the same kind of move. Absolutely a ton of side bend as he bows forward and turns, a ton of rotation and separation between the lower spine and the upper spine as it kind of twists. And also he has a lot of spinal extension. Kind of an exaggeration of that old reverse C that they used to warn us about when we were younger. Now here's another incredible golfer, Mason Howell. He qualified for the US Open at 17 years old with qualifying rounds of 63-63 to lap the field. Now again, you see that kind of that same back position, kind of arched and torqued and side bent. You can almost tell, once you get older, you can almost tell what position, if you tried to copy it, would almost hurt you instantly. Now, nothing is a guarantee. It's not guaranteed that any of these golfers are going to be injured along the way. We're just saying, in my expert opinion, that the risk is higher. Now, for those of you who want to delve into a little bit more scientific detail, well, here's an assessment of these photos from ChatGPT. Just simply pause the video and read. All right, now let's look at two of the moves that, in my opinion, really contribute to all this back stress. First of all, the modern golfer who's trying to hit the ball really far, these younger kids, have a much wider stance than they used to. Look at this clip of Johnny Miller teeing off. Now, he went at it hard, didn't he? He confessed to going at it just about as hard as he possibly could during that amazing 3-year run of victories, including the 73 US Open at Oakmont, where he shot an all-time record 63. You can see clearly that his feet are more underneath his hips like this, and although they used to warn you about this kind of reverse C finish, you can see with Johnny Miller, his back is under much less strain in the extension side of things than the modern golfers today. Now, this is because as you widen your stance, you're going to tend to have your hips kind of stuck in the middle. A wide stance is great for stability, but if you want to go for mobility, in other words, I want to shift my weight completely over to my left foot, watch what I have to do. I can't quite get there unless I really put the arch into the back, and that's the only way I can keep myself from falling backwards, is to really extend that hip out into space. Otherwise, I'm going to be kind of falling back onto the back foot without a complete weight shift. But with a narrower stance, like the old classic swings used to have, where people generally didn't line up as wide, if you have your feet more underneath your hips, watch what I can do here. I can step over completely to the left foot, as proof by lifting this foot, And you see as I turn through here, it makes it easy for my back knee to become adjacent to my left knee, just like this video of Ben Hogan swinging through with a very minimum amount of spine extension at the end of the swing. Now, today's modern power golfer is much more focused on what they call ground forces, or how their feet are interacting with the ground so they can create more speed and distance. I think they're especially obsessed with the vertical component of the ground forces, which brings us to the next move. Now, in all these modern swings, as they're coming down into impact, you're seeing their back knee straighten. In some cases, in the extreme case, like you'd see with Michael DeSasso, is that not only does his knee straighten through impact, but his heel also stays completely down on the ground as he's torquing around the corner with all the side bend. Now, carefully try that move at home. Keep your knee straight and your heel down, keep bent over, and now start rotating, and tell me exactly where you're gonna grab your spine before it snaps in half. For me, that's right there. Happens to be one of two junctions that are critically important and extremely at risk during a golf swing, and that is the L4, L5, fourth and fifth lumbar, and the fifth lumbar, and S1, the one right below it. These are just above your belt buckle, right in the small of your back. Now, as the right leg straightens, we now have both legs kind of equal length. Therefore, when the golfers are turning through it, you'll notice that their belts are relatively flat. But when you go back and you look at classic swings, like a Trevino, for example, you clearly see, while the left leg is being straightened and posted up, the right knee is being driven into a flex position like this, and you can clearly see how much my belt is tilting. Now, here's another look with a stick going through my belt loop, so you can clearly see the tilt in my belt this way. Now, once you have a proper tilt in the belt, compared to if the knee is straight and the heel is down on the ground, and I turn through more level like this, you can see that in order to get the side bend down to the ball, I don't have to bend my spine so much. Since my hips are already on this tilt, just the natural T of my spine is going to enable me to get down to the ground without bending my spine sideways. Now, keep watching to the end, because I'm going to give you a bonus tip. Very simple add to your swing that's going to even take more stress off your back, possibly give you more distance too. All right, so now we've reduced both the spinal extension and the excessive side bend. Now we just have the excess rotation, or between the thoracic and the lumbar, kind of a torquing or twisting force, almost like you'd be trying to wring out a towel. For us to reduce that amount, we're going to do the narrower stance. Of course, we're going to get that tilt in the belt, and we're going to kind of allow the entire spine to swing around together like a door closing, like this. So not trying to go for any twist or any X factor, but just let the hips and the torso swing around to face the target together at about the same rate. It really is amazing the difference in the position of the back, the spine, through the impact between the modern swing that's trying to create all this extra power and the classic swing. Now let's recap the positions and motions that, in my opinion, are going to help you reduce the risk on your back and spine, so you wake up ready to play golf every day instead of being stiff and sore and needing all that Advil. First, adopt a narrower stance on the driver. You'll know this because you should have your heels approximately under your hip bones at the widest, which for me is right about here. You're going to know this position if you pretended, like the old days, that you could jump off of 2 feet and dunk a basketball and then land. It's the exact stance width that you should be at. So if I came running up to spike a volleyball or jump and dunk a basketball like this, just like that, this is the width I would jump at, right about here. I would not get a very successful jump, and I certainly wouldn't land from a high distance like this. Now, secondly, we need to pay very close attention to the action of the rear foot. We need this thing to both roll inwards and have the heel detach from the ground. Now, if you do this correctly and you flex your knee is going to go well through the center line, And as you turn through, you notice that my right knee comes almost all the way up to the front line, adjacent to my left. This is because my stance width is under control. This allows my right leg to now be shorter. My left leg coming into extension is now longer. Therefore, I'm going to have a tilt at the belt. So now as I turn through, I don't have to side bend at the spine as much, and it really unlocks easy rotation going through the ball like this. Now I promised you one little bonus tip, and that's something that my mentor Mike Austin used to do, and you can see it clearly in the video I'm showing on the screen. He used to do what he called a foot drag. This is very similar to the best discus throwers in the world, who throwing something that heavy and that explosively, you would certainly be injured the very first try, rather than with a golf injury where it's chronic and it could take thousands and thousands of repetitions before you see anything happen. What Mike would do essentially is he would shift with the narrower stance. He would get his pelvis all the way over to the outside of his left foot, leaving the right foot essentially weightless. And if you're aggressive enough, you'll notice that this leg will drag a little bit. Now what I want you to do is not do this like Scotty Scheffler, where it drags behind you a little bit. I don't think that's good for him. I'm not going to drag it straight at the lead foot, but instead it's almost like you're going to be tiptoeing in a little semicircle around the left post like this. So it's going to trace just a little 20 or 30 degree arc around your lead foot. It'll look something like this. When you get weightless over here, it almost wants to happen by itself. Just this little drag will really allow the forces to be taken off your back. Again, check out a world champion discus thrower. They're actually doing what's called a switch. So when they're in the ring and they come around, and they come around again, and throw upwards, their plant foot actually switches. This is so that the right hip can keep coming around and catching up, keeping the lumbar spine from going too much into a twist against the thoracic spine higher up. Again, that's like turning that door I talked about earlier, keeping the spine rotating all together on this axis with a little foot drag like this, a little tiptoe around the circle. Boy, it makes this so free and easy. Encourages rotation and takes all the stress off the back. All right, let's take a look at that little toe drag in action. Here we go. Notice how my right knee has come all the way up, almost poking through the front line in front of my left knee. Now you can see I have very little reverse C, only a tiny bit of spine extension at the end here because of what my right knee and ankle did through impact. Now from this angle, we'll slow it down just a bit so you can really see the difference in my lower back through impact compared to some of the young golfers that I've showed you so far. So hey, give these moves a try. You've got a lifetime of good, healthy golf ahead of you. Let's keep that spine intact. Thanks so much for watching. Again, I'm Steve. Head over to my website, hititlonger.com, for more great videos, articles, and products that I highly endorse. And if I don't see you in the next video, I hope I see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.